I couldn't forgive my grandmother for a long time. And honestly, I'm still not sure I ever will. She wasn't always like that. She used to be warm, quiet, gentle. Every Sunday, she baked pies for us, and she would always call me first to taste the dough. She laughed in a way that made the whole house feel lighter. Even my dad, who almost never smiled, would smile with her. But then, something changed. Not suddenly, not all at once. It was slower than that. Like something inside her was fading away. At first, she just started leaving the house more often. She said she needed fresh air, said she wanted to walk. Then she started coming back with bags. Old things, other people's things. She loved flea markets, those places where people sell what they don't need anymore. Antique objects, worn by time, sometimes forgotten. She could spend hours there, touching things, picking them up, stopping in front of objects no one else would even notice. And she always came back with something. Things like these have a soul, she used to say. My mom hated it. She said the house was turning into a storage room. My dad didn't say anything. And me? At first, I just didn't understand. But then, I started noticing things. My grandmother never bought anything new, only old things. Only things that felt like they had already lived a life before us. She placed them around the house very carefully, too carefully, like every object had a place, and that place couldn't be changed. One day, I moved an old photo frame just to clean the dust. When she saw it, she didn't yell. She didn't get angry. She just looked at me for a long time, too long. And then she said, "Don't touch what isn't yours." I remember feeling cold, even though the house was warm. After that, I stopped touching her things, completely. But Lisa didn't understand. She was 8. She still believed adults knew what they were doing. She would walk up to anything, pick it up, examine it, and ask 100 questions. And my grandmother, she only ever answered one. "Where did you get this?" And every time, she said almost the same thing. "It found me." Lisa used to laugh. She thought it was a joke. Until one day, she stopped laughing. It was evening. Nothing special, just a normal day. I was in my room when I heard Lisa call my name. Quietly, not like she usually did. I stepped into the hallway. She was standing by the living room door, but she wasn't going inside. "What's wrong?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. She just stood there, staring into the room. And then, very quietly, she said, "She doesn't like me." "Who?" Lisa slowly raised her hand and pointed inside. "That thing." I looked. There was something new on the dresser. I knew immediately my grandmother had brought it home that day. A small box, dark wood, covered in carved patterns that almost seemed to move if you stared at them too long. I didn't feel anything, nothing strange, just an object. But Lisa, she took a step back. "It knows I can see it," she whispered. I wanted to tell her it was nothing, that it was just a box, that she was imagining things. But for some reason, I didn't. Because in that moment, something inside me felt wrong. And for the first time, I had a thought I couldn't shake. What if my grandmother wasn't bringing home just old things? What if it was something else? That night, I heard it, for the first time. A sound, very quiet, almost nothing. Like something inside the wood, slowly dragging its nails along the walls. After that evening, the house felt different, smaller. I can't explain it any other way. Nothing had changed. The same walls, the same rooms, the same furniture. But it felt like there was less air. I tried not to think about the box. I really did. I kept telling myself it was just an object. Old, strange, but still, just an object. But there was one problem. I started hearing it. Not all the time, and not right away. At first, only at night, when the house went quiet, when my dad turned off the TV, when my mom finished in the kitchen, when the footsteps upstairs faded away. And all that was left was silence. That kind of silence, thick, heavy. The kind that doesn't calm you. The kind that presses on you. And somewhere inside that silence, there was a sound. Very quiet, almost impossible to catch. Like someone slowly dragging a finger along the inside of a wood. At first, I told myself it was just the house. Old boards, creaks, nothing unusual. But the sound kept coming back, every night, almost at the same time. And each time, it lasted a little longer. I started waking up before it began, just lying there, staring at the ceiling, waiting. That was the strangest part. I didn't want to hear it, but I waited for it anyway. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, very slowly, carefully, so I wouldn't wake anyone. The floor under my feet was cold. I remember that clearly. Too cold for a house with the heat on. I stepped into the hallway. It was dark. Only a faint light from the kitchen touched the corner of the wall, and the sound got louder. I knew immediately where it was coming from. The living room. Every step felt heavy. Not because I was scared, but because something inside me felt like I wasn't supposed to go there. But I did anyway. When I reached the doorway, I stopped. The box was on the dresser, exactly where it had been, but it was open. Just a little, a few inches. And in that moment, the sound stopped. Instantly, like it had never been there. I stood there, not moving, just staring. Part of me wanted to walk closer, check it, prove it was nothing, but my body wouldn't move. I just stood there, feeling the cold slowly rising inside me. And then, I noticed something. The lid of the box was moving. Slowly, very slowly, closing. No sound, no sudden motion, just on its own. I couldn't take it. I turned around and almost ran back to my room. I didn't sleep that night, not at all. In the morning, everything looked normal. The box was closed, neatly, like no one had touched it. For a moment, I thought I had imagined everything. Until I saw Lisa. She was sitting at the table. There was a cup of tea in front of her, already cold. She wasn't drinking. She wasn't moving. Just staring at nothing. "Lisa?" I said quietly. She slowly turned her head and smiled, but it wasn't her smile. Too perfect, too calm. "Did you hear it?" she asked. Something inside me tightened. "Hear what?" She tilted her head slightly, like she didn't understand the question. "The box." I didn't answer. She leaned closer to me and whispered, "It opens when everyone is asleep." A chill ran down my spine. "Lisa, it's just—" "No," she interrupted me. Her voice dropped, quieter, deeper, not like a child's voice at all. "It doesn't like being closed." At that moment, my mom set her cup down sharply. "Enough, Lisa." Her voice was normal, tired, irritated. "Stop scaring yourself and everyone else." Lisa went quiet. But before she looked away, she looked at me and silently mouthed, "It knows you now." That day, I tried to stay away from the living room, completely. But that evening, I walked past it. And for a second, I stopped. because it looked like the lid of the box was slightly open, just a little. And in that thin, dark gap, I thought I saw something looking back at me. After that morning, I couldn't pretend anymore that everything was normal. The house had changed. Not on the outside, on the inside. It felt like it was listening. I caught myself speaking more quietly, walking more carefully, trying not to make noise, like I was afraid something might hear me. And the worst part wasn't even that. The worst part was that I was getting used to it, to the sounds, to the silence, to the way Lisa looked at me. She wasn't the same anymore. She still sat at the table, still walked around the house, still looked at us, but there was no life in her. Sometimes I would see her standing in the hallway, not moving, just staring toward the living room and whispering, but not to herself, like something was answering her. I tried talking to my mom, tried to tell her something was wrong, that something was happening to Lisa, but she just waved it off, tired, annoyed. She's just imaginative. Stop overthinking everything. My dad didn't get involved at all. And my grandmother? My grandmother started spending more time with Lisa. They would sit together in the living room, right next to the box, sometimes in silence, sometimes whispering to each other. But every time I walked in, they stopped. One evening, I stopped in the hallway, didn't go inside, and I heard my grandmother say, "You understand, it doesn't hurt." Lisa didn't answer. "At first it's scary," my grandmother continued, "but then it becomes quiet." Something inside me went cold. I couldn't stay there anymore. I walked in. "What are you talking about?" They both turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw it. They looked the same, not physically, but in their expression. The same smile, quiet, calm. "We're just talking," my grandmother said. But her eyes, they weren't warm anymore. They were empty. That night, I decided to check. I couldn't just wait anymore. When everyone fell asleep, I stepped into the hallway. My heart was beating so loud, it felt like the whole house could hear it. I walked toward the living room and stopped because there was already light inside. Dim, yellow. I looked in. The box was open, wide, and in front of it stood Lisa. She wasn't moving, just staring inside. "Lisa?" I whispered. No answer. I took a step, then another, and suddenly, she spoke, but not in her voice. "Too late." I froze. "What?" She slowly turned her head and smiled. "You hear it too, don't you?" I couldn't speak. "It already chose," Lisa whispered. And then, I heard a voice behind me. Of course it did. I turned around. My grandmother was standing in the doorway. She looked calm, too calm. "You've always been observant," she said. "What is happening?" I managed to say. She walked slowly toward the box, ran her hand along the lid. "These things," she said softly, "are not just things." She looked at me. "They're doors." I couldn't breathe. "Once, I didn't understand either," she continued. "Not until I found the first one." She smiled. "Or until it found me." I shook my head. "You bring this into the house?" "No," she said calmly. "I just help them." "Help who?" She looked at the box. "The ones inside." The floor felt like it was disappearing beneath me. "They need places," she said. "Bodies, voices." I turned sharply to Lisa. "No," my grandmother sighed softly. She heard it herself. She's a child. Exactly. A pause. They always choose the ones who still believe. I stepped toward Lisa. Come here, I said. She didn't move. Lisa, she smiled and said, I'm already inside. My breath stopped. What? She nodded toward the box. She's in there. Slowly, very slowly, I looked inside. And in that moment, everything disappeared. Because inside, there was a room. Dark, deep. And in the corner stood Lisa. Small, terrified. She looked straight at me and whispered, Take me out. I stepped back, closed the lid. My hands were shaking. No, no. My grandmother placed her hand on my shoulder. It's too late. I pulled away. You're insane! She shook her head. No. And then quietly added, I just know how it works. Silence. And then, the box behind me slowly opened on its own, and I heard it. That sound. But now, it was louder, closer, like it wasn't inside the wood anymore, but somewhere behind me. I didn't understand at first, but when I did, it was already too late, because Lisa, the one standing in front of me, took a step and walked past me into my place. And in that moment, I felt something looking at me from the inside. Darkness, silence, and a voice. Quiet. Now, you. I don't know how much time has passed. There are no windows here, no light, only silence. Sometimes I hear footsteps outside. Sometimes a voice. My mom's. She calls my name, but when I answer, she doesn't hear me because she's not talking to me. She's talking to her. And one day, I heard my grandmother say, This one is better. She's stronger. A pause. Then the next one. She'll choose herself. And that's when I understood. This will never end.